Joining us now is United States Marine retired Lieutenant Colonel Asad Khan, author of the book Betrayal of Command. First, sir, thank you so much for your service to our nation. Can you tell us about your military service, your book, and your reaction to Operation Epic Fury?
Sure. Thank you for having me. Obviously I served in the Marine Corps. I commanded an infantry battalion in Afghanistan, and then I retired. And I'm also a foreign area officer for the Middle East, and I happen to be in the Middle East. And I wrote about my experiences in the book Betrayal of Command. It's a pretty good read. I think most of your viewers will probably enjoy it.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of traction on Amazon and other places as well for that book. Can you talk to us about specifically what years you served? I know it was in Afghanistan, correct? And tell us what it was like to serve in our United States military as a lieutenant colonel, and then maybe juxtapose that to what it's like out there, what you're seeing out there today with the leadership of Pete Hegseth.
Yeah, so I loved it. I mean, I served from 1985 to 2005. And, I had 2 tours actually in Afghanistan. I was there in 2001 in the early days. And then I came back, trained up an infantry battalion, took them back to Afghanistan. We fought in the Oruzgan province and Zabul province as high as 10,000 feet with about 1,000 submarines and 200 Afghan militia fighters. And, the Marines did fantastic. Very proud of them to this day. And the book really talks about my experiences. If I juxtapose that, to what's going on now, obviously I miss the Marine Corps. I mean, I love it too. I've got, very passionate about it. And, and there's a lot going on in our military. Some of the changes that I've seen in the military so far are fantastic. I think they're right on. The military should be based on meritocracy. And the reason being is when you go to combat, the enemy is unpredictable, and combat in itself is unpredictable, and war is uncontrollable. So you need the best and the most highly trained people in combat to serve on either side of you. And that's the most important thing. I took 1,200 Marines into combat. Unfortunately, I brought back 1,199, and that still bothers me to this day. And my book sort of talks about that as well. So it's important that our military is highly trained, and it's important that they're led by the best possible leadership that we can give our young troops. And it's important that we have accountability. And since we're talking about it, what happened on 26th August 2021 in Afghanistan, to this day we haven't had accountability. Now think about that. It took us 4 years to mobilize the military, go to Europe and the Pacific, defeat the Germans and the Japanese. In 4 years we did that. It's been 4.5 years and we haven't had accountability. So accountability is very important, especially for the senior leadership in the military.
Exactly. So, sir, then on top of that, I saw some videos online of you out there, Lieutenant Colonel Asad Genghis Khan out there speaking to a number of Marines and others. What would you say to those that could be possibly watching right now, or just families that have loved ones overseas? What would you say to a warfighter at this moment?
Well, I mean, the biggest thing right now, you got to focus on what the task at hand. That's the bottom line. The nation's at war, and you need to make sure that you take care of the Marine, soldier, sailor, Coast Guardsman on your left and right. That's your number one responsibility right now. Then after that, for the families, hey, they need 100% support. My family supported me when I was in combat. My son was also a Marine. He also went to combat. And it's important that the parents and the families and the loved ones and the wives and the sons and daughters support your soldier, sailor, Marine when they go off to combat. And it's very tragic that we lose people. It's going to happen, and it's very unfortunate. It still bothers me to this day that I lost Corporal Ron Payne. But that's what we signed up for, to do the nation's hard work. And the important thing is that we have the best training out there. We've got the best troops. We've got the best training, and we've got the best equipment out there. And it's important to be well trained before you go overseas to do the nation's bidding.
And then on top of that, we've been monitoring United States Central Command videos here at Right Side. We've been tossing to a number of those videos that they've been posting. Have you been tracking those videos? What's your reaction to see an Iranian mobile launcher thinking it's going to do some damage, and then our military just destroys it? And then on top of that, how about the submarine recently taking out, one of the Iranian ships there as well?
Yeah, it's a good feeling. I mean, that's what we train for, right? I mean, but at the end of the day, I mean, you can never underestimate the enemy, right? And Iran has been preparing for this conflict for decades, for minimum 4 decades, and I would not underestimate them by any means. But by the same token, this has just begun. We don't know how long it's going to last. I anticipate right now it's going to last about 2 weeks more. And the reason being is from first day when they're firing the missiles, they've gone down about 80-some% in terms of how many missiles they're launching. And just in one day, they've gone down 23%. But I do have a concern. And my concern is if we push them far enough, this regime, that they may cross the nuclear threshold. Then what? The rules of the game change. So that's something we need to think at the back of our mind. They enrich their uranium to about 60%. I'm no expert on nuclear physics and all that stuff, but I have stayed in a Holiday Inn Express, but we got to be careful here because what I'm told in my research, it's basically takes about a week to 10 days to get up to the 90% threshold for a nuclear weapon. So that's dangerous. And what do we do if they cross that threshold? What's the game plan? What's the end state? So those are some of the big concerns that I have.
We've heard from the United States government that what has happened so far is a lot smaller than what's about to happen or what is happening right now. Pete Hegseth talking about making shock and awe look like nothing compared to what's happening there in Iran. They're also saying this isn't supposed to be a long ground war with troops with boots on the ground there. More of a surgical strike, lots of surgical strikes, as you know. If that's what happens and we free people in Iran and it's a surgical strike and we move on, would you be pleased with that? And then on top of that, what would be your reaction if this was a long war in Iran?
The problem that we're having was, I heard Admiral Cooper, and we basically attacked about roughly about 4,000 targets over the last 5 days, right? And with great success, what you're talking about, the launchers and all that. But sooner or later, you're going to run out of targets. And if you can't acquire targets through their electronic signature or their IR signature, then what do? And you can't keep reattacking the same target because that's a waste of resources and logistics because all this stuff costs a lot of money. So at that point, you got to get boots on the ground. You got to get those special operations forces on the ground, fire the targets, verify the targets, to laze them and get ordnance on them from our aircraft. Now, it seems to me that this administration and Hegseth has a plan because we're evidently arming the Kurds in Western Iran. Now, and just like we did in Afghanistan, and I was there when this happened, when we started arming the Afghans, the warlords and the militias, the Northern Alliance, and then we embedded, the CIA paramilitary amongst them, including the special forces, if you remember, the horse soldiers and whatnot. So, something may happen with the Kurds, but here's the warning. We got sucked into a 20-year war in Afghanistan, and we certainly don't want to get sucked into that. So that's one part. The second part is the Kurds have their own aspirations. You've got Turkish Kurds, you've got Iraqi Kurds, you've got Iranian Kurds, and they want Kurdistan. So this is going to really play, it's going to play out at the back end. And, we really got to think through this. And if the Kurds end up getting their Kurdistan, that's going to fragment Iran. It's going to fragment Iraq, and Turkey's not going to be happy because they're going to end up losing some territory. So we may end up in a bigger mess down the road. So we really got to think this stuff through at the end of the day. Short-term gains could be long-term catastrophic strategic problems for us.
So we'll see. We're monitoring what happens there. But last question, sir, 30,000-foot view. It seems that under the leadership of Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of War, there's a new competency in the military. The cuffs are off. He's able to freely use our military firepower. And then what we saw in Venezuela, a quick surgical strike and out, Maduro gone. This is probably the same goal, what we're seeing here in Iran. Finally, your thoughts about the leadership, Pete Hegseth.
Well, I think Hegseth's doing a pretty damn good job, quite frankly. I mean, I'll be honest with you. When his name first came up, and I'm thinking, National Guard major, you got to be kidding me. Yeah, he wrote a couple of books. He's on Fox and Friends or whatever on TV. But what I like about him, he's making decisions and he's making change happen. And you could say that his predecessors were so qualified, but they didn't do the things that needed. So Hegseth is a sharp sword. I love what he's doing. Meritocracy in our military. The military's got to be based on meritocracy, because I want to go to combat with the best person on my left and right. I don't want a person that just, got something handed to him, some rank or whatever. So I think this is right on the money. He's really got to make sure that we continue to raise our standards, and I really applaud him for what he's done. I'm a huge fan of Pete Hegseth right now, believe me.
Thank you, sir. United States Marine retired Lieutenant Colonel Asad Genghis. Thank you for your service to our country and insight. Semper Fi, sir.
Thank you. Semper Fi.
Thank you.